Okay, we left off at 16, and now we're going to jump to number 28 and do 28, 29, 30, and 31. So we are being asked to factor. So if I look at number 28, do I have a GCF? No. Could I do grouping? No. Do I have a trinomial? Yes. Does it have a lead coefficient? Yes. Okay, so remember we're going to turn this into 4 terms. So I'm going to bring this one down. I'm going to bring my last one down. And then I'm going to multiply 2 times 12. And then that number I am going to factor. So I will have 1 times 24, and 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6. And I will add my factors together, and then I will subtract them, add them, subtract them, add, subtract, and add and subtract. And I am looking for my middle term of 11. I found it right here. That means I'm going to be using 3 and 8. And because the 11 was in the plus column, that means my signs are going to be the same. So I will put a 3s and an 11s over here. And they will both be whatever this sign is. So I will have minuses for both of them. And now that I have 4 terms, I can do my grouping. So I'm going to group the first 2. I'm going to group the second 2, making sure this negative sign stays inside. So then I'll put a plus between. And then I can do GCF. So the common out of 2s squared minus 3s is just an s. And that will leave me 2s minus 3. Because s times 2s is 2s squared, and s times 3 is 3s. And then in my negative 11s plus 12, I don't have anything to factor out. So, oh, look what I did, you guys. I put an 11 here. Why would I do that? I need to use these numbers right here. So let's try this again. Sorry about that. So it should be an 8s. Here we go. See the 3 and the 8? I should have used 3 and 8. Those 2 terms are going to get me the 11. So I'm sorry about that. All right, let's see. A negative 8s plus 12. Okay, now we have a greatest common factor. We can factor out a 4. And because this is a negative, I'm going to be factoring out a negative 4. So now let's multiply. Negative 4 times what will give me that negative 8s? I need a 2s. And then negative 4 times what will give me a positive 12? I need a negative 3. Okay, so now look what I have. What I have in the parentheses is the same. That should happen. So what I pulled out, I factored out an s and then a minus 4. Right here was the s, right here was the minus 4. And then my repeating parentheses, I am writing 1 time. So here's my answer for number 28. Okay? All right, let's look at number 29. Again, I don't have a greatest common factor. I can't do grouping because I don't have 4 terms. I do have a trinomial. Again, I do have a trinomial with a lead coefficient. So again, I'm going to pull down or rewrite my first term. I'm going to rewrite my last term. And then those 2 numbers or coefficients, I'm going to multiply together. And again, that's what I'm going to factor. So, oh look, it's 24 again. So I have 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6. Again, if I add and then subtract my factors, add, subtract, add, subtract, add, subtract. Okay, what am I looking for this time? Oh, I'm still looking for 11. So again, it's going to be the 11. Again, I'm going to use 3 and 8. And again, my signs are going to be the same because it's in the plus column. So that means I'm going to write a 3y and then an 8y. I'll get it right this time. Signs are the same, and they're both going to be whatever this is. So that means this is a negative and this is a negative. All right, so now that we have 4 terms, let's go back and see about grouping. So I'm going to group the first 2. I'll group the second 2, again squeezing that negative sign in. And then factor out GCF. So greatest common factor out of this would be a 3 and a y. So 3y times what will give me 6y squared? Well, I'm missing a 2 and a y, minus 3y times what will give me 3y? That would be 1. And out of negative 8y plus 4, I can factor out a 4. And again, because this is a negative, it's going to be a negative 4. Negative 4 times what will give me negative 8y? That's going to be 2y. And then negative 4 times what will give me a positive 4? That's going to be a negative 1. Again, look at my parentheses. Are they the same? Yes, they should be. So what I factored out, the 3y minus 4 goes in the first set of parentheses. The 2y minus 1 goes in the second set. And there's my answer. All right, number 30. We do not have a greatest common factor. I cannot do grouping. I don't have 4 terms. I do have a trinomial, and I don't have a lead coefficient. So that means I can put my parentheses right away. And then p squared, I just need to put a p and a p, because p times p will give me p squared. And then I just have to factor my last term. So I have 36. That means I have 1 times 36, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 4 times 9, and 6 times 6. So I will add and I will subtract. I will add and subtract. Add and subtract. And add and subtract. And add and subtract. And I am looking for my middle term of 5. I found it here. I'll be using the 4 and the 9, and the 5 is in the minus column. That means my signs are going to be different. One will be positive and one will be negative. So I'll put my 4 and my 9 in here. And because my signs are different, I look at this sign. That goes with the larger of these two numbers. So 9 is larger, so it gets that sign. 4 gets the other sign. And there's my answer. Okay, number 31. Again, we're factoring. It looks like I have a greatest common factor. Looks like I can factor out a 6 out of both of those. And then I have a cubed and I have a. So that means I can factor out an a. So 6a times what is going to give me 6a cubed? I am missing a squared plus 6a times what will give me 18a. So I am missing a 3. And I am done. Okay, so we're going to skip over now. We're going to go to number 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50. Okay, we'll do the rest of the problems. As many as we can on this video. I'll probably have to go to another one. So number 45 says we're dividing polynomials. So we have 3x squared minus 13x minus 10 divided by x minus 5. Now remember, guys, if this will factor, we can set it up as 3x squared minus 13x minus 10 over x minus 5. And if we can factor, then we can just cancel things out. Or if you just want to do long division, it doesn't matter whether it can factor or not, long division will work every time. So I think I'm going to go that route. So I'm going to put my x minus 5 on the outside of my little house. And then I will put 3x squared minus 13x and then minus 10. So when we are multiplying, remember, we are only looking at the first term and then the first term. So I'm asking myself this, x times what is going to give me that 3x squared? All right, well, so obviously I need to multiply by a 3, and it looks like I probably need to multiply by an x. So I'm going to put this up here in my answer above my second term because I have 2 terms here. I'm looking at 2 terms here. Okay, so now I'm going to multiply this 3x with this. So this is what I'm doing. 3x times x minus 5. So 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times negative 5 is negative 15x. And then I'm going to divide, I'm going to subtract. And I will put this in parentheses so that I subtract everything. So I have 3x squared minus 3x squared. That's gone. Then I have negative 13x minus a negative 15x. Remember, guys, if we have minus and negative, we're actually going to do plus a positive. So now I have negative 13 plus 15. That's going to give me 2x. Bring the next term down, a negative 10. And now I'm going to do all of this again. So I'm going to start with, again, the first term, and I'm trying to get this first term. So now I'm saying x times what is going to give me 2x. And it looks like I probably have to multiply by a 2. So that 2 is going to go here, and it's a positive 2. So I'll put that with a plus sign, and then I'm going to say 2 times my divisor out here. So 2 times x minus 5. So I'll distribute. 2 times x is 2x. And then 2 times a negative 5 is a negative 10. And then I should be subtracting. So again, if I do subtraction and then parentheses, I've got 2x minus 2x, which is 0. A negative 10 minus a negative 10. Again, if we do plus a positive, I have a negative 10 plus 10, and that's also 0. So my answer for number 45 is just 3x plus 2. Okay? All right, let's try number 46. Again, I'm just going to jump in there and do the long division. Okay, so what we are dividing by, the x plus 5, that goes on the outside of my house. The rest goes underneath, so I have 3x squared minus 13x and minus 10. Again, I am looking at just my first term and trying to multiply it by something to get this first term. So again, I'm saying x times what is going to give me 3x squared. And it looks like, again, a 3 and an x. I'll put that up here above the 13x, so we have 3x here. And then again, I will go and I multiply 3x times my x plus 5. And I distribute 3x times x will give me 3x squared. 3x times 5 will give me a positive 15x. And then I will go and subtract. Again, put this in parentheses. And I've got 3x squared minus 3x squared. That's gone. And I've got negative 13x minus positive 15x. Again, if I do keep, flip, change, I'm going to keep, I'm going to flip, I'm changing. So now I have negative 13x minus 15x. I'm going to end up with a negative 28x. Bring down my next term, which is a negative 10. And let's do it all again. Again, I'm starting with this first term, trying to get to this first term. So I'm going to have x times what is going to give me a negative 28x. So it looks like a negative 28. So that's what's going to go here. So we're going to have that negative 28 times what I'm dividing by right here, the x plus 5. And I will distribute. So negative 28 times x is a negative 28x. A negative 28 times 5 is a negative 140. And again, let's subtract in parentheses. So negative 28x minus a negative 28x. Again, if I do keep, flip, change, negative 28x and a positive 28x is gone. Negative 10 and a minus negative 40. Again, keep, flip, change. I actually have a negative 10 plus 40, which will end up with a positive 130. So because we have a remainder, remember we're going to put that number 130 over what I'm dividing by, which is x plus 5. Because it was a positive 130, I'm going to put a plus sign right here. And this would be my answer.